Welcome to the Sage 50 US Edition Anytime Learning topic. In this topic, you will learn how to assign payroll information to tax form fields in Sage 50. Before printing your year-end government forms and reports, you may want to verify that the correct payroll tax fields are assigned to the appropriate W-2 fields. This will help ensure that the correct amounts print on your employees' W-2s and other federal and state forms. Let's access the Employees and Payroll Navigation Center. Click the Payroll Setup icon, and then select Payroll Settings. On the Payroll Settings window, select the Taxes option on the left navigation pane, and then Assign Tax Fields. There are three sets of fields that determine what payroll information is used to populate forms and reports: W-2 fields, Company Paid Tax fields, and Employee Paid State Tax fields. Let's look at the W-2 field assignments first. On this window, payroll fields are assigned to the corresponding boxes on your employees' W-2 forms and the company W-3. In addition to W-2s, this information is also used to populate amounts on the Federal 941 form, the Tax Liability Report, and other forms and reports. The majority of the W-2 fields on this window are configured when you first set up payroll using the Payroll Setup Wizard. Generally, these settings are correct and shouldn't be changed. These settings include mapping the Federal Income Payroll field to Box 2 of the W-2, the Social Security Payroll field to Box 4, and the Medicare field to Box 6. The field map to Federal Income Tax Withheld is also used to print the amount of Federal Income Tax Withheld on line 3 of Federal Form 941. And the formulas assigned to the payroll fields mapped to Social Security Withheld and Medicare Withheld are used to calculate amounts printed on lines 5A and 5C of the 941. If you live in an area where state and local taxes are collected, the Payroll Setup Wizard will also assign the state income and local income payroll fields to the appropriate W-2 fields as needed. Additionally, payroll fields used to track retirement and insurance plan contributions may be mapped to Box 12 and Box 14 respectively, if the plan deductions should be reported on an employee's W-2. Note that usually a code should also be provided for a field mapped to Box 12. You can select the appropriate code from the drop-down menu. Note that once you have walked through your initial payroll setup using the Payroll Setup Wizard, the wizard becomes unavailable and you can no longer access it to create and assign certain payroll fields, such as an employee tips field or a new local income tax deduction. Fields that were not created by the Setup Wizard will need to be manually assigned to tax fields. For example, if you need to track employee cash tips, but you skip setting up a tips field during the Payroll Setup Wizard, you will need to manually create the tips field in the program and then assign it to Box 7. If additional tips are allocated to employees, an appropriate field may need to be added to the Box 8 field as well. Let's add our manually created cash tips field. To select a field, click the drop-down menu next to the appropriate W-2 field. All payroll fields available on the payroll entry window will be listed in this drop-down. We'll select the IMP Tips field. Note that if you are unsure of which W-2 field should be used, you should consult an accountant or tax authority for details. When you're finished, click OK to save your changes and return to the main window. Now let's take a look at payroll fields assigned for company-paid taxes. Use this window to set up federal and state taxes that are required to be paid by the employer. This information is printed on the Federal Form 940 and other required federal and state tax forms. The Federal Unemployment or FUTA tax field identifies the payroll field that is used to print an employer's federal unemployment contributions on Form 940. This is a required field and is set up automatically by the Payroll Setup Wizard. The State Unemployment Tax field identifies the payroll field that is used to print an employer's state unemployment contributions on state forms. This field is also defined by the Payroll Setup Wizard. If your state requires an employer to contribute additional unemployment contributions besides SUTA, assign the payroll field used to track this information to the other state unemployment tax field. The state disability insurance field identifies the state disability insurance contributions that some states require employers to pay. The payroll setup wizard may create this payroll field and assign it here, depending on the state you define during the wizard. Add the appropriate field to the state training tax field if you are required to contribute towards state employee training. The state's Special A and B tax fields identify the unique taxes that employers may need to pay. Typically, the payroll setup wizard will set these up for you. Finally, let's take a look at fields that print state tax amounts paid by employees on many state forms. For many states, these fields will remain empty. However, if your state requires that disability insurance, state unemployment, and training taxes are to be paid by employees, then assign the appropriate fields here. Let's exit this window and then click Finish to exit the payroll settings window. This concludes our look at verifying tax field assignments in Sage 50. Thank you for taking this Anytime Learning topic. For information on additional training options available, please visit us at sageu.com.